What's going on, y'all? Today we got a 2-for-1. We're going to go over my boundary corner rankings and my nickel corner rankings. So both corners, but two very different positions. Let's go ahead and start with my boundary corners. If you have any questions from guys 23 to 16, feel free to drop them in the comments and I will reply and give you what I think personally of them. But we're going to go over the top 15, like I said, because we got two positions today. So let's start with Ephesians Prysock out of Washington. I mean, you couldn't draw up a corner really better than this. He's 6'3", 196 pounds. The arms and wingspan is great. He runs in the 4.4s, jumps a 39-inch vertical. Like everything is there that you would like from a size and athleticism standpoint. The only problem is, I think this year was definitely not the best or the most kind to Ephesians Prysock. First of all, allowed 370 yards and five touchdowns. Five touchdowns is one of the higher numbers for any boundary corner. But yeah, he got five pass breakups. He did grab one interception, so take that for what you will. But he also had seven penalties this previous season, and 10% missed tackle rate's not too bad. And he got you 14 stops against the run around the line of scrimmage. So yeah, like I said, he gave up a good bit of touchdowns, a good bit of yardage at 370. Not the worst I've ever seen, but still is a good bit. And the seven penalties, he does get very handsy and grabs when he feels like he's been beat. I think the offseason process went really well for him. He looked good at the Senior Bowl and at the Combine, of course. But yeah, his overall play, I think, needs to get cleaned up quite a bit. But he is a borderline top 150 prospect for me, and I'd probably feel pretty comfortable taking him in the fifth round. Number 14 for me is one of the more underrated corners, I think, in the class, and TJ Hall out of Iowa. 6'1", 190. The arm size is fine enough. It's not great. The thing that Hall really, really, really is going to fall because of, in my opinion, is the overall athleticism. It sucks. He runs nearly a 4.6. The 10 yards not the fastest. The three cone isn't great. But overall, if you can look past that he's not the lengthiest player in the world or the most athletic, the tape is really good. I mean, the completion percentage was about around 46%, which is amazing. Gave up similar yardage to Prysock, but clearly 13% less passes completed. It's awesome. He had three less touchdowns allowed. He had four more pass breakups, five less penalties, a better tackler with a 3% lower missed tackle rate. Like I said, TJ Hall is not going to wow you with size or athleticism, but the overall play on the field, he is a very developed corner, in my opinion. I do have a top 150 grade on Hall. He does crack for the boundary corners in my top 150. So yeah, if you take TJ Hall in the fourth or fifth round, I think you're getting a really good player. Realistically, I think he probably goes late day three because of the overall athleticism. Number 13, another big athletic corner, Takario Davis out of Washington, 6'4", 194 pounds, 22 years old. Very long arms, lengthy wingspan, ran a 4.41, which is a great number for someone that size. The 10-yard wasn't the best. He is a little slow off the line, but it's still pretty good. And this past season, he was just shut down for Washington. I mean, a 53.6% completion percentage isn't bad. 146 yards, not complaining about that at all. Only one touchdown allowed. Great. Four pass breakups, two interceptions. Once again, another corner that gets very, very handsy at times, like his teammate at Washington, Ephesians Prysock. Both of them big, lengthy dudes. Such a fun cornerback. One of the funnest cornerback duos I've ever got to watch in scouting. Just two 6'3", 6'4" behemoths on the outside for Washington. But yeah, they similar with similar stuff. I mean, both of them are very handsy. They get a lot of penalties. I would say Prysock, even though the tackle missed tackle percentage is 5% higher, he is probably a better overall tackler in terms of making plays around the line. But yeah, two very fun prospects. I'm fine with taking on day three of the draft. Number 12 is still not. You won't see a top 100 corner for me till number 9. But number 12, Malik Muhammad out of Texas was very close. I believe he finished 112 on my big board. 6 foot, 183 pounds, so he is very small, especially weight wise. But the alarms, no, slow down. Time out, coach. Breathe. The arm length is very good. The 10-yard split was great. He can jump out the gym. 130-inch broad jump with a 39-inch vertical is exceptional. He did give up a high completion percentage on passes completed against him, but not very many yards at 168. He does miss a good bit of tackles. That's probably my biggest concern with this game and his overall size. I think he can get pushed around, bullied a lot, but in pass coverage, he is very good. I just worry about if he's going to be able to be a real starting corner because, I mean, he can get overpowered a lot, and he's not that good at tackling in general. So those are my two biggest concerns with Malik Muhammad's game. But overall, pretty good coverage player, very good athlete down the field. I like him quite a bit. I think he could be best suited for a role in the nickel, considering some of the size concerns. But he had enough snaps at Texas, and the arms are long enough to where if he adds, I'd say like 10 pounds to his frame, I'm like, okay, then yeah, boundary full time. Number 11, one of my favorite prospects in the draft based on upside, Devin Moore out of Florida. 6'3, nearly 200 pounds, 22 years old. Similar to the Washington corners I talked about, another very good athlete, 4.5 speed, 1.56 on the 10-yard. He's not quite as lengthy as the Washington corners, but I think overall his play was just much better when he was on the field, and that's the biggest issue. When is he on the field? He can't stay healthy. That is his biggest concern. And honestly, I think I like him so much, like tiered with Takario Davis, that I want to move him down a spot. Oh, spoiler, number 10 is Julian Neal. Didn't mean to do that. But yeah, it's not the first time I've done that. Only a 10% missed tackle rate's really good, 13 stops around the line. He did not have a penalty this last season, only 2 touchdowns allowed, got a couple picks, couple pass breakups. Overall, just a very solid player. Like I said, the big concern is Devin Moore. He's just not available very often. He struggled with injuries his whole career at Florida, but if this dude could manage to stay healthy, I think he's one of the more talented corners in the draft. All right, number 10 for me is going to be Julian Neal out of Arkansas, 6'2", 203, one of the heavier corners in the draft on the boundary. 33-inch wingspan is awesome. 40-inch vertical was way better than what I thought. Same with the broad jump because he was viewed as not the best athlete ever. And I kind of think that showed up with the initial 10-yard, but then he strided it out, got a 4.49, which is very good for what I was expecting with Julian Neal. And yeah, I mean, overall, there were some questions around the Senior Bowl just because he kind of struggled in one-on-ones because of athleticism problems we deemed. But there was a question about him moving to safety, and I think that's still on the table. That's really up to whoever drafts him if they want to move him to safety. I think he would be a damn good safety because, as you can see, I mean, 8 pass breakups, only yeah, 2 interceptions. 4 penalties is a little high, and like I said, it kind of reflects in when you watch, especially the Senior Bowl tape of he's trying to grab on because he thinks he just can't hang with the wide receivers in one-on-one man coverage. But like I said, he is very, very good, in my opinion, in zone coverage. 5% missed tackle rate. He is a great tackler, one of the better ones in the class at tackling out of the cornerbacks. And just overall, like I said, I think his game, just based on his strengths and how smart he is, but overall, he does lack some ideal athleticism and his overall size. I would probably move this dude at safety and feel pretty good about it, in my personal opinion. All right, let's talk about the top 9 who will crack my top 100. Starting off with number 9, Dalen Everett out of Georgia, 6'1, 196 pounds, only 22. Not the longest arms in the world, but man, he can fly. He is one of the faster corners in the class with that 4.38 speed. It's the best number we've seen so far. I'm trying to think. I think a couple of the nickels definitely have him beat there, but the boundary corners, I don't like Mansour, Delane, and McCoy both replicated 4.38, but I'm trying to D'Angelo Pons, he'll be in the nickel rankings. Oh, we'll see. We'll see. That's irrelevant. Dalen Everett to me definitely is a lot of projection. Like, yeah, he got a lot of pass breakups, but he also had a lot of penalties, allowed over 400 yards, which is one of the worst numbers we've talked about so far. Hell, it is the absolute worst. But he plays against a lot better competition than most of the guys we've talked about, so I kind of want to give him a pass. And he's such a good athlete and good tackler, and he kind of is arguably the second best in the class, in my opinion, behind Colton Hood in terms of being able to tackle up around the line of scrimmage very effectively and just make plays and can wreck the backfield even when he's allowed to. Like, he is a very fun player, good tackler, very good athlete. He just needs to clean up a lot of stuff in his overall pass coverage. But like I said, you get him in with a good DBs coach, I think that cleanup will be no problem based on his overall size and athleticism and how like instinctive he is for the ball. I mean, like I said, he grabbed an interception this past season, but he's so good around the line of scrimmage. You got to have a good nose to be able to do that. Number 8 for me is going to be Charles Demings, one of my favorite corners in the draft. And I'm always a sucker for corner. I overvalue them every year. Have I learned from my mistakes? No, not yet. And hopefully I do maybe next year because this wasn't the year. I am always a sucker for corners. Love good athletes, smart players, typically like their film a lot. Last year, I had like 7 guys in my top 64 at the corner position. Corners do sometimes take longer to translate than other positions because to me, it's arguably the hardest position in the NFL, not named quarterback. So it makes sense. But man, Demings, even playing at Stephen F. Austin, he went to the Senior Bowl, tore up the competition down there. You go and you're like, oh, who is this dude? You watch his tape. He tore up all his competition. And yes, it's a lower level competition playing at Stephen F. Austin. But overall, like he's got the arm length, he's got the overall size, the athleticism was great. One of the highest verticals and broads in the class. And like I said, you watch the tape, he's a phenomenal tackler. He doesn't really have a penalty problem. He doesn't get too handsy. He had 4 interceptions this past year. He has a good nose for the ball. Didn't allow a ton of yards or touchdowns. He just dominated his level of competition. And I'm not going to hold the level of comp against him because that might be on coaches not recruiting him to let him shine at higher levels. So if you can look past the school he plays at and who he's playing against, and you can look at how good he was at the Senior Bowl and his overall great athleticism and size, I'd take this dude 100 times out of 100 in the third round, and it's not even a debate for me at 100%. All right, number 7 for me is going to be Davison Igbinosun out of Ohio State. Another lengthy, good athlete at corner. Not quite the athlete Demings is, but the arms are a little longer. Overall size, he's an inch taller, same weight, year younger. But he was playing at Ohio State, and his overall production kind of replicates what you see with Demings. So that's why he has to get the nod for me. I mean, overall, he gave up 1 less touchdown, 30 less yards, got similar production in terms of pass breakup and interceptions. He's a little more handsy, had 2 more penalties than Demings. Overall, made 5 more stops around the line, though, so you like that number. But yeah, the big problem with Igbinosun is he definitely is not a clean tackler. He needs to clean up his overall tackle mechanics. Missed 13%. That's a little too high for my liking. It's not terrible, but it definitely is starting to push the verge of being terrible. So if Igbinosun can overall just improve as a tackler and maybe add a little more weight for physicality reasons, he's a good athlete. He's a very instinctive corner, smart corner on the boundary, clean up the penalties too. And I think you got an easy top 75 pick. He, I think, is right outside my top 75 in my rankings. Number 6 for me is going to be Brandon Cisse out of South Carolina. 6 foot, nearly 190 pounds, 21 years old. Brandon Cisse, I think, is by far one of the highest upside corners in the class. He doesn't have the super great arm length. If anything, it's mediocre. But a 41-inch broad jump, 131 on or 131 on the broad, 41 on the vertical, excuse me. And overall, I can't remember why he didn't run. Maybe it was like I can't remember, and I don't want to put false information out. So I don't know why he didn't, but if he did, I think he could have ran in the 4.3s, at least low 4.4s, to give y'all an idea of the type of speed Cisse does have. And yeah, I mean, his worst game was by far against Texas A&M. He got tore up by KC Concepcion and company. But like, I can kind of look past that because he was pretty damn good the rest of the season. Didn't have a penalty problem. Needs to improve overall as a tackler. That's another big gripe like Igbinosun I have in his game. But 7 pass breakups, 1 interception, only 1 touchdown allowed. One of the better athletes at corner in the entire class. And like I said, the upside is certainly there. He has that tape to where it's like, oh my God, this dude's a top 10 pick. And he also has that tape of, oh my God, he's undeveloped third, fourth round pick. So Cisse falls in at 6. I think there's a real world where he could develop in the right situation. If he goes somewhere less favorable, he could rank as low as like my overall corner 9 or 10, personally. All right, number 5 for me is going to be Avion Terrell out of Clemson. Avion Terrell honestly started off in my nickel rankings, but the arm length is good enough to where I think a team's going to try him on the boundary, especially with him measuring in at 5'11. You like to see him add a little weight. overall athleticism, he's not going to wow you, but the overall stuff on the field, he is a great football player. He's got a great nose for the ball. He's very versatile in the secondary. He caused multiple fumbles this past year at Clemson. Didn't get an interception this year, but has several in the past. But like I said, really, he's got the peanut punch down about as good as you can have it down. He can knock out that football at any given time. He's a great tackler, even being undersized. 10% is not the best number, but 17 stops around the line of scrimmage certainly is. Five pass breakups. Overall, Avion Terrell, just, I think, a victim of a very sorry defense, but one of the few bright spots on the defense. I think the 24 tape was a little bit better, but overall, then again, like, he just seems like he did develop. He was even out there blocking kicks for Clemson this past season. So it's like, you want an overall game changer that can affect the game in many ways from many positions. Avion Terrell is one of those dudes. I do kind of worry about him pulling his hamstring at his pro day and what he could have potentially ran to boost the stock. If anything, that hamstring might have dropped him to going in the second round. But if he does go in the second round, I think teams getting a steal. He's in the 20s, not the early 20s. I believe if I had to guess, he's probably around 27 on my big board off the top of my head. But number 4 is going to be Colton Hood out of Tennessee. I think Colton Hood is one of the more underrated prospects in the draft. I think a lot of people would try to act like Colton Hood's this underdeveloped corner that needs a lot of time. I don't see that same case. I mean, 6 foot, 193 pounds. The arm length's good. The overall athleticism is great. Over a 40-inch vertical, 4.4 speed, pretty 4.44 speed. Excuse me. But yeah, I think the big thing with Colton Hood was he got tore up the first couple of days at the Senior Bowl by players like Ted Hurst, Tyron Montgomery. I think got the better of him once that. Maybe Vinny Anthony as well. He had a couple bad losses, but man, towards the end of the week, he was like, "All right, I'm done effing around with y'all. I'm gonna show y'all why people think I'm a first round pick." And he dominated the rest of the week. So you really like that turnaround where he flipped the switch on. He's one of the younger corners in the class at 21 years old. And overall, to me, he's by far the best tackler. I mean, a 6.7 missed tackle rate, 20 stops around the line of scrimmage. Like, I kid you not, there is not a corner in this draft I'd rather have if we're playing a lot of press man and underneath zone defenses on your team. Like, so he's someone that just needs to end up somewhere where they're going to utilize him up, 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 and often. Like, his struggles get to be like when he's asked to drop back in zone coverage or he's asked to go 30 yards down the field in man coverage. Like, Colton Hood is a true press corner that where if he gets his hands on you, you're not going anywhere. Or if you have him and underneath like cover two, for instance, like you throw a screen to Colton Hood's side or you run to his side, the play's going to end there because he just does not allow people to get around him. So Colton Hood to me is a borderline top 25 player. He's one spot ahead of Terrell on my big board, and I would definitely take Colton Hood in the first round personally. Number 3, and I've said it multiple times, considering where the consensus has this guy, the most underrated prospect in the draft. Overall, a top 20 player for me, my number 19 prospect in the class, Chris Johnson out of San Diego State. This is deja vu for me. It feels like Quinion Mitchell all over again when I had Quinion Mitchell as my number 1 overall defensive player. Oh, he played at Toledo. You're an idiot. He's already 23. I'd say so far he's probably been the best overall defensive player in that class so far. So I feel pretty good. Pat on my back, certainly a top 10 player in that class as a all-pro corner. What, a first-team all-pro, I think, this year? One of the best corners. Chris Johnson gives me those same vibes. People shit on him for playing at San Diego State. Same way they did with Quinion Mitchell. Well, maybe the athleticism. Let's see what he looks at the Senior Bowl. Better competition. Chris Johnson crushed the Senior Bowl. Then he goes to the Combine. He crushes that, runs in the 4.4s, 38-inch vertical, 126-inch broad jump. Then, like I said, you want to flip on the tape. 41% completion rate, 185 yards allowed, 0 touchdowns, 5 pass breakups, 4 picks, 5% missed tackle rate, 14 stops around the line. Oh, and by the way, he's 21 years old. And honestly, I think going over this one last time, there's a chance Chris Johnson, he won't end ahead of McCoy and Delane for me if you couldn't figure out who the top 2 were. He might crack my top 15. I'm starting to get that high on Chris Johnson overall as a player, so look out. He might even be higher on my final big board than what I initially said. But like I said, number 2 and number 1, and if you couldn't figure out the order, here it is. Jermod McCoy and Mansour Delane. Jermod McCoy is very interesting. 6'1", 188 pounds, 21 years old. good arm length overall. Crushed his pro day, and it was the first time we've seen him since he tore his ACL in January of 2025. So that was nice to see. But yeah, overall numbers. This is what we got to see from McCoy in 2024 at the end of that 24-25 season. 50% completion rate, nice, 386 yards, solid, 2 touchdowns, 6 pass breakups, 4 picks. 8 penalties is a little too much, but very good tackler as well. Jermod McCoy is one of the more patient corners I've ever got to watch in my really 4 years of taking draft processes very serious. So yeah, just one of the more patient. Like he's never going to bite. He's not going to make the wrong decision. He's going to stay on your hip. He reminds me a lot of Christian Gonzalez, but in other news, I think Mansour Delane is even better than that. And I'm not saying McCoy's a one-on-one comparison of Gonzalez. I don't think he's nearly that good, but he still can be a top 15 corner, but Delane to me will be a top 15 corner. 6 foot, 187, not the longest arms in the world, but man, he ran good at the combine. 4.38, 1.5. Not the strongest player in the world, but just with his overall speed and athleticism, like you couldn't get away from him. I mean, really, his Virginia Tech tape was terrible. He goes to a higher level of competition that fits his skill set better, and he's the best corner in the nation up there with Leonard Moore. I mean, 37% completion rate is nuts. 147 yards, 0 touchdowns, 7 pass breakups, 2 picks, 0 penalties, 10% missed tackle rate, 10 stops. And by the way, he's only 22. Like, Mansour Delane's a stud. He's the top 10 player for me easily. Could finish as high as my overall, like, number 7 player in the class. I think Delane should be a top 10 pick for sure. And I think someone's going to get a steal, whether that's the Chiefs at 9, the Dolphins at 11, the Cowboys at 12, Bengals at 10. Wherever he goes, you're going to get a stud. I can promise you that. All right, let's go ahead and unfortunately, I guess I don't have that many nickels anyways. I think there's 14 of them, so we'll talk about the top 10 immediately. And you're going to see all top 10. So here you go. These are my official nickel rankings, starting off at number 10. Really, I mean, honestly, if you want to ask questions about these guys, you can. But for the sake of time, we're already 22 minutes over. My top 8 make my top 150. I know that might sound crazy, but like I said, really good corner class. I think number 8 and number 7 are kind of similar, and Torino Pride Jr. out of Mizzou and Bud Clark out of TCU. Bud Clark looked really good at the Senior Bowl, so I think that gave him a boost. Overall, a couple inches taller, a couple pounds heavier, but 2 years older as well. And Torino Pride, I think, is one of the more underrated players in the draft. Like, he's got 4.3 speed, a 1.5 in the 10 yard, 128-inch broad. Like, for being a nickel corner, like, the dude certainly can fly. And overall, the production was very well, arguably even better than Bud, if you consider in less yards, less completion rate, less touchdowns. But Bud really has a way better nose for the ball, and I'll give him props for that with 6 PBUs and 4 interceptions, but 7 penalties as well. So Bud Clark definitely does get handsy. But yeah, Torino Pride was used as a boundary corner, but like I said, he's going to play in the slot in my opinion, personally. But yeah, those guys are 7 and 8 for me. Chandler Rivers also could have been thrown in that conversation as a just very good athlete at the nickel, but undersized, 5'10", 185. Pretty good production, allowed a good bit of yards at Duke. Not ideal, but the overall athleticism and nose for the ball, I think, makes up for it for me personally. So definitely him and Bud Clark and really Pride in the same boat. I would all consider fourth round picks on all of them. Pride probably closer to the fifth round. My top 5, though, Devin Marshall really has not spent a lot of time in the slot at all. I just think overall, when you look at Devin Marshall, 5'10", 197 pounds, I mean, 22, the arm length isn't great. You know what? I mean, with him being so heavy, I think Marshall can hang on the boundary. Off the top of my head, I can't remember where Devin would be in my corner rankings. I think he'd be ahead of. But I'll fix it. I can't remember. Like I said, when you get to the guys in this tier, like it is very close. Did it not move? But yeah, I think we're going to see a real time fuck. I'll change it after. But I think Devin Marshall. Now, the more I think about it, maybe he will stick as a boundary, even though he's 5'10". He's got the height, the arm length solid enough, and overall, that's where he has all his experience at. So Devin Marshall probably would have been right in front of probably Devin Moore personally for me in the rankings. So right behind Malik Muhammad in my corner rankings. So Devin Marshall, but also what Devin Marshall does good, very good nose for the ball. I mean, 12 pass breakups, 2 picks, not a lot of penalties or touchdowns allowed, 6% missed tackle rate, so a really good tackler as well. So overall, just a really good player that might just be limited overall height and arm length wise. My top four, I think there's a big jump. All top 75 players. Keontae Scott is very close to a second round top 64 grade. I think overall he's around like 60. I want to say 66, which I'll still touch up on my big board. But you'll never see a nickel jump a nickel or a corner jump a corner. It's not going to happen. These are my final rankings. All you might see is a corner jump a edge rusher if I think about it more. But to me, Keontae Scott, like he is what he is. Like he's kind of like his teammate Akeem Mestor. What you see is what you get. 5'11", 190 pounds, 25 years old. To me, he definitely plays his best football in the slot. Certainly, he's got some good kick returning ability, I guess, which I should mention as well. For getting 36 stops, he like which is a unreal number. He's not the best tackler. I mean, I think it really has to do with the overall amount of games Miami played with going to the national championship, but 20% missed tackle rate's too high. I love the fact he didn't allow a touchdown or a penalty. That is really elite stuff. But like I said, he's undersized. He's already 25, misses a lot of tackles, even though he's pretty good around the line of scrimmage. I think Keontae Scott could also play some safety. And the same can be said with Traden Stukes out of Arizona. Like, I just don't know why this is doing this. Let me refresh it real quick. Um, because Traden Stukes is my apologies, y'all. I don't. It's bugging. It's like what? Traden Stukes though. Let's talk about Traden Stukes. I'm not touching anything else. Traden Stukes, 6'1", 190 pounds, also 25. Not the overall decent enough length in my opinion, but man, the athleticism with Stukes is where he separates. 4.34 speed is unreal. 130-inch broad jump. 28 or no, sorry, 38-inch vertical. Overall, just an elite player. Got you 17 stops around line, 10% missed tackle rate, 0 touchdowns or penalties allowed, 4 interceptions. Great nose for the football, can get his hands on the ball at any time, and 6 pass breakups. And the thing I love the most about Seuss and why he's a top 50 player despite his age, just overall, like he is like he's just a baller. You want to put him in the nickel, he'll exceed. You want to put him on the boundary, I think he'll exceed. You want to play him at free safety, he'll exceed. He reminds me a lot of Kobe Bryant, and not the one in Atlanta, the one that just signed with Chicago, former Seahawk Kobe Bryant. So yeah, just overall, he can make plays from anywhere on the field. His biggest problem is his age, and to me, when that's your problem, you're a pretty damn good football player. Number two for me is going to be Keontae Scott out of Arizona State. Scott coming in at 5'10", 187. Arms are pretty short, damn near on the threshold of being undersized. He's literally on the dot at the 30-inch threshold. But to me, he's probably still better suited in the nickel with his overall height and just his play style. I mean, I think Arizona State really missed out with not using him in the nickel more, but he was still fantastic. I mean, 44% completion rate, great. 320 yards, not the best, but not the worst. 0 touchdowns allowed, awesome. 9 pass breakups, awesome. 2 interceptions. His one big problem is, once again, he's very handsy, like I talked about with Bud Clark. He likes to grab a lot, and you really got to break out that problem. But I think that has a big result and just overall how physical he plays. I mean, 4% missed tackle rate for someone 5'10", 185 pounds. Like, he reminds me of like the Tasmanian devil. He's just out there and he's everywhere at every time, but sometimes he might just mess up some things in terms of getting the penalties. And that's kind of a crazy analogy for a football player. But like when he turns into a tornado, anything's happening. Great stuff can happen, bad stuff can happen. But he's such a game changer and a playmaker that I would take him in the top 50 in a heartbeat. Number one overall, though, for me, easily D'Angelo Pons. You can rip up the 5'8 concerns, 180-pound concerns. Oh, his arms and his wingspan are small. Rip it all up. I don't care. He is one of the anomalies to where I will not care. I have seen D'Angelo Pons in 2024 go up against 6'4 Denzel Boston and utterly dominate him. winning at the catch point as well against him. Pon's 43.5 inch vertical is just nuts, by far the best in the class. At his pro day, I didn't put the number in, but I believe it was clocked at a 4.27, officially came back around a 4.32. One of the faster corners in the class, just overall a fantastic athlete. Then you look at the production. He doesn't have a penalty problem. He allowed 0 touchdowns. He got you 9 pass breakups, 2 picks, 3% missed tackle rate, one of the best tacklers, even despite his size, 17 stops. D'Angelo Ponds is one of the most flawless prospects in terms of actual film I have ever seen. His only and his biggest problem with is how tall he is, 5'8". That's rough. There's not a lot of corners that size that are successful. He will be the anomaly. I have a first round grade on him, top 30 player in my opinion in the class. But yeah, those are going to be my corner rankings. Let me know what y'all think and what's y'all's personal opinion on some of these guys. And yeah, until next time, my friends, peace out.